Flying over the rocky Icelandic coast in the late 1940s was an exercise in calculated risk. You were navigating harsh weather, unforgiving terrain, and early aviation technology. The absolute worst sound a pilot could hear was the sudden, violent sputtering of a dying engine. When the engine cuts out mid-flight, the physics of the situation become very simple. The plane stops being a vehicle and becomes a falling piece of heavy metal. In the cabin, panic is the only logical response. But at the controls sits Jón Guðmundsson. He isn't sweating, he isn't praying. He is methodically checking his instruments with an absolute, unnerving calm. Instead of bracing for impact, Jón radios the cabin. He speaks in a flat, reassuring tone, lets everyone know the situation is under control, and takes a moment to confirm that their luggage is perfectly secure. Then he executes a flawless emergency landing. Most people would survive a near-fatal aviation disaster and immediately look for a desk job. For Jón, dragging a broken airplane out of the sky without breaking a sweat was just a Tuesday. Jón appeared to lack a traditional panic response. Where most people feel a surge of adrenaline, he seemed to only see a list of tasks. When things go wrong, you don't panic. You simply assess the raw facts in front of you and act. This specific temperament allowed him to treat entirely different, high-stress professions with the same detached, pragmatic approach. It raises an interesting question. What exactly do you do with your life when literally nothing scares you? In 1945, learning to fly required some logistical gymnastics. Coming from an island nation in the North Atlantic, Jón boarded an Eimskipaskip ocean liner and traveled thousands of miles to landlocked Tulsa, Oklahoma. He enrolled at the Spartan School of Aeronautics. There, he mastered a specific discipline known as blind flight, the practice of flying an aircraft entirely by reading the cockpit instruments when visibility is zero. Blind flight is counterintuitive. Your inner ear might scream that you are upside down, and human instinct urges you to panic. Jón excelled because he could ignore those instincts and rely on the raw data on the dials. He took those skills back home to fly commercially for the early Icelandic airline Lærði. Whenever the machinery failed, he relied on his training, and his pulse never quickened. After years in the cockpit, the predictable mechanics of flight no longer provided a challenge. He began looking for something less tangible to master. In 1948, he made a sharp pivot. He figured that if you can understand the complex mechanics of an aircraft, the human mind follows its own set of predictable patterns. He stepped onto the stage at venues like Ásturbæjarbíó as a performing hypnotist, drawing massive crowds. There was no mysticism to his method. He put regular people to sleep with the same deadpan, mechanical efficiency he used to run an engine check. Becoming a famous stage hypnotist was just a temporary side quest for Jón. He treated the role with the same brief, intense focus he applied to everything else before moving on to his next pursuit. A man still needs a practical trait to pay the bills. Moving into the 1950s, he earned his master electrician's license and opened his own contracting business. That contracting work pulled him into the sprawling U.S. military base in Kafli, which operated as a massive, self-contained American town in the middle of Cold War Iceland. He started out wiring the buildings, but his knack for solving operational problems got him noticed. Within a few years, he was managing the entire recreation department, overseeing the travel agency, running the base library, and operating the cinema. And that is how an Icelandic aviator and stage hypnotist found himself managing a military bowling alley. From navigating the skies, to hypnotizing volunteers, to fixing the pin setters on lane 4. To Jón, none of these leaps were strange. They were all just practical problems that needed a calm operator to fix them. When you zoom out and look at his timeline, the volume of his life stands out. He navigated 4 marriages, raised 6 children, and maintained 3 completely unrelated, highly demanding careers. Today, the professional world demands hyper-specialization. We spend decades trying to master one narrow sliver of one specific industry. Jón was built for a different era. He represents a lost mid-century archetype, the trailblazer who could look at a new industry, ignore the learning curve, read the manual, and simply begin. This brings the story back to that failing airplane over the rocky coast. While gravity pulled his aircraft toward the water, Jón focused on the status of the passengers' luggage. He landed the plane safely, but the detail that lingered was his calm concern for the suitcases. Jón's life suggests that the most effective tool in a crisis is a complete refusal to participate in the panic. If you can stay that calm while the engines are smoking, you can do almost anything.